All right, in the past hour, we received a statement from the Dallas Police Chief, Renee Hall, about why she has not fired Officer Geiger. She said, as an employer, DPD can compel Officer Geiger to provide a statement during a DPD administrative investigation, and those statements given to DPD could potentially compromise the criminal investigation. That is not a risk I am willing to take. Now, this statement raises several questions about that investigation. So joining me to help us sort out all of this is attorney Pete Schulte. So Pete, can an officer's statements made to the department be used in a criminal case?
Absolutely not. We call this, it was called the Garrity v. New Jersey Supreme Court case. It says anytime somebody's statement at a police department, any other governmental entity that's compelled, it cannot be used in a criminal investigation. When I read Chief Hall's statement today, it just doesn't make much sense to me. I don't know if it's ignorance or it's being naive, but it doesn't make any sense legally.
Well, I'm also curious, so there's also this an investigation going on in terms of her being an employee. Can those be used by this separate investigation?
No, and that's why even if DPD still had been handling the criminal investigation, they have two separate units. They have the Internal Affairs Division and they have what we call SIU, which is a Special Investigations Unit. They do not communicate. So now that the Rangers have it, anything that the DPD Internal Affairs Division does cannot and will not be turned over to the Texas Rangers. So I don't understand this statement. They should have started an internal affairs investigation. They haven't, and that's asking me, or making me ask a lot of questions if Chief Hall really knows what's going on.
Yeah, I'm curious because if memory serves me correct, there have been cases in which I believe officers have been dismissed, even under this kind of time frame.
Absolutely, John. I'll tell you, I mean, every citizen is innocent until if proven guilty in court, and I understand that. But this has been a lot of backlash in the community. There's been a lot of protests. There's no issue with Chief Hall saying, you know what, you're going to be terminated. You have your rights under civil service state law to appeal your termination and to go through the government code and try to get your job back. But for right now, for the best of the department, it's time to part ways, and that's what I'm waiting on. I would have expected it. It should have probably already had happened already.
All right, Pete Schulte, not only attorney, he's also been a police officer. We do appreciate you joining us today. We will continue to follow the latest on the investigation, and we will stream Botham Jean's funeral live on Monday.